In this first presentation, I will be discussing the case of the New York Times versus Sullivan. Who are the parties to the case and what facts led to their dispute? L.B. Sullivan, an elected official in Montgomery, Alabama, filed a lawsuit in a state of court alleging that he had been libeled by an advertisement in Corporate Petitioner's newspaper. The advertisement included statements, some of which were false, about police action allegedly directed against students who participated in a civil rights demonstration and against the leader of the civil rights movement. Sullivan claimed that the statements referred to him because one of the jobs of a public official included supervision of the police department. Why did Sullivan feel his reputation was damaged by the New York Times publication? Sullivan claimed that he had been libeled by statements in a full-page advertisement that were carried in the New York Times on March 29, 1960, entitled, "Heed Their Rising Voices." The advertisement stated that the whole world knows now thousands of Southern Negro students are engaged in widespread nonviolent demonstrations in positive affirmation of the right to live in human dignity as guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution of the Bill of Rights. Paragraphs 3 and 6 were particularly damaging as they stated false claims regarding the students and the police force. The third paragraph reads, "The New York Times wrote in Montgomery, Alabama, after students sang 'My Country, 'Tis of Thee' on the state capitol steps. Their leaders were expelled from school, and truckloads of police armed with shotguns and tear gas ringed the Alabama State College campus. When the entire student body protested to state authorities by refusing to register, their dining hall was padlocked in an attempt to starve them into submission." The sixth paragraph reads, "Again and again, the Southern violators have answered Dr. King's peaceful protests with the intimidation and violence. They have bombed his home, almost killing his wife and child. They have assaulted his person. They have arrested him 7 times for speeding, loitering, and similar offenses. And now they have charged him with perjury, a felony under which they could imprison him for 10 years. It goes without saying that some of the statements contained in the paragraph were false. Although Negro students staged a demonstration on the state capitol steps, they sang the national anthem, and not 'My Country, 'Tis of Thee,' which is an American patriotic song written by Samuel Francis Smith. Although 9 students were expelled by the State Board of Education, this was not for leading the demonstration at the Capitol, but for demanding service at a lunch counter in the Montgomery County Courthouse on another day. Not the entire student body, but most of it had protested the expulsion, not by refusing to register, but by boycotting classes on a single day. Most of all, the students did register for the upcoming semester. The campus dining hall was never padlocked, and the only student who may have been prevented from eating there were a few who had neither signed a pre-registration application nor requested temporary meal tickets. Although the police were present near the campus in large numbers, they did not ring the campus, and they were not called to the campus in connection with the demonstration, as the third paragraph implied. What are the elements of defamation? Since Sullivan was a public official, what did the plaintiff have to prove in this case? Although neither of these statements mentioned Sullivan's name, his defense was that the word police in the third paragraph referred to him as the Montgomery Commissioner is responsible for supervising the police department. So ringing the campus with police could be seen as his misuse of law enforcement. He also claimed that the paragraph was damaging to the police as it painted a picture of the police padlocking the dining hall in order to starve the students into submission. With regards to the 6th paragraph, he contended that since arrests are ordinarily made by the police, the statement "they have arrested Dr. King 7 times" would be directed at him as if he locked Dr. King up 7 times. He further contended that they who the arresting would be equated with they who committed the other described acts and with the Southern violators. Sullivan argued the paragraph would be read as accusing the Montgomery police, and hence him, of answering Dr. King's protest with intimidation and violence, bombing his home, assaulting his person, and charging him with perjury. What was the US Supreme Court's decision, and why did it make that decision? The freedom of speech and press protected by the First Amendment makes it difficult for public officials to file defamation lawsuits. The judge ruled that mere negligence or carelessness is not evidence of actual malice and does not justify an award of exemplary or punitive damages. Had the words been published to intentionally defame or damage Sullivan's reputation, then he might have won the case. The evidence was damaging the evidence was deemed constitutionally insufficient to support Sullivan's case. In my second presentation, I will discuss the case of Gertz versus Welch. Who are the parties to the case? Was the petitioner a private person or public figure? Gertz was not a public figure. He was an attorney hired to defend the family of Nelson, a young boy killed by a police officer. What were the alleged defamatory statements about Gertz in the American Opinion article? In a publication called The American Opinion, which depicts the views of the John Birch Society, it was stated that Gertz had been an official of the Marxist League for Industrial Democracy, originally known as the Intercollegiate Socialist Society, which has advocated the violent seizure of our government. It labeled Gertz a Leninist and a communist fronter. It also stated that Gertz had been an officer of the National Lawyers Guild, described as the communist organization that probably did more than any other outfit to plan the communist attack on the Chicago police during the 1968 Democratic Convention. What was done to confirm the accuracy of these allegations against Gertz? These statements were grossly inaccurate. Gertz had no criminal background, and although he had been an officer in the National Lawyers Guild some 15 years ago, there was no evidence to support any claims that he or the organization took any part in planning the 1968 demonstrations in Chicago. Labeling him a Leninist or a communist fronter was also inaccurate and had no grounds. Gertz had also never been a member of the Marxist League for Industrial Democracy or the Intercollegiate Socialist Society, all very serious and damaging accusations. How do you think these allegations affected Gertz's reputation? These allegations probably did irreparable damage to his reputation as a lawyer and as a patriotic American. He could have been under constant scrutiny from the public and lost credibility as an attorney. It would have been devastating due to the public fear towards communism at the time. What would you have done differently than Welch to avoid the lawsuit? I would have used factual evidence and expressed sympathy for the family and police officer involved rather than libel accusations based on almost nothing about Gertz. What is your state's defamation law? According to digital media law, under Florida law, the elements of a defamation claim are 1. The defendant published a false statement, 2. About the plaintiff, 3. To the third party, and 4. The falsity of the statement caused injury to the plaintiff. In Florida, a statement amounts to defamation per se if it accuses the plaintiff of committing a crime or imputes to the plaintiff conduct, characteristics, or a condition incompatible with the proper exercise of his or her lawful business, trade, profession, or office. How can you relate what you learned from the Sullivan and Gertz cases to your future work in the communications industry? Don't make up stories to sensationalize articles. Also, the media can be a tool for great inspiration or great destruction. I would hope to inspire people with my work rather than use it for evil.